we did have the opportunity to see somebody trying to cross the river. When she tried to go up and declare her seeking asylum, they were like, "No, you need to get back in the river." The Texas National Guard is putting her at risk of drowning to make her go back in, and it's literally so she could go further down because they don't want to remove the razor wire. They're going to make her go across and then detain her there.
Welcome to Fight Back Radio, a production of fightbacknews.org, taking you to the heart of the people's struggle. I'm your host, Richard Berg, and I want to start by letting people know that 2 weeks from now is May Day 2024, International Workers' Day, and this is my favorite holiday of the year. It'll mark 2 years since Fight Back Radio started, so it's been an exciting 2 years, which we've documented here and had a number of really good guests on. But I want to encourage you, International Workers' Day is a national event. I maybe like it especially because it started to commemorate events in Chicago in 1886, where in the fight for the 8-hour day. But if you're not familiar with the history of May Day, I would encourage you to go back. One of our very, very first episodes of Fight Back Radio was an interview with Larry Spivak, who is the president of the Illinois Labor History Society, and he talks about the whole history of May Day. And so this is my commercial for one of our very early episodes. For those of you on YouTube, I apologize because the video is just our logo up there the whole time. So it's more like a radio episode. But it tells the story of Haymarket and of how May Day was started out. And International Workers' Day is a day around the world that unions and political parties and folks celebrate to let's talk about ourselves as a class, what our accomplishments are, our goals ahead. Let's show solidarity, and let's fight the good fight. And so everybody that's listening to Fight Back Radio, I hope you'll make plans for May Day. Because it falls on a Wednesday this year in the United States, many of us are going to be celebrating the week before or the week after, whatever. Here in Chicago, I think we're going to have a march on May 4th, it looks like. And we'll bring together, people from the labor movement, different sections of the workers' movement, poor and oppressed people. And I want to give a special shout out. Our guest today is Xavi Velasquez, who is from Legalization For All. His organization is affiliated with that national organization. But the immigrant rights movement really brought May Day back, so it's appropriate that we have today as our guest a real fighter from the immigrant rights movement. Xavi is the president of the La Frontera Nos Cruzos, which is the border crossed us, which is a reference back to the Spanish-American War, where the land in the southwest of the United States was annexed from Mexico and made part of the United States. I think Xavi, he's going to talk about a lot of the current events because, as we approach the presidential election that's coming up, Donald Trump especially is raising the issue of, in alarms and trying to vilify and criminalize, people who are come across the border or immigrants from wherever they're from, but especially South and Central America. And a lot of this has come to a head in Texas, which is where Javi's from. He's a proud Chicano, and he spent his life in Texas, and so he was part of a delegation of Legalization For All of people from Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Texas who went to the border of Texas and Mexico, they went there and they investigated. There was Governor Abbott of Texas has been saying all kinds of stuff, but so they went to Eagle Pass, and you'll hear his story about the delegation, about what it did, and hopefully it'll open your eyes a little bit about what's going on with immigration in this country. And we need to stand for legalization for all. We need to stand for, this goes back to the issue of May Day, we need to stand for full equality for all workers. And so I'm going to get off my soapbox right now and let you listen to Xavi Velasquez. Okay, so I'm here with Xavi Velasquez, who's the president of La Frontera Nos Cruzo. And so welcome to Fight Back Radio, Xavi.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So you were part of a delegation that just went to Eagle Pass and then across the border there. And so I want to dig into that a little bit. But before I do, why don't you tell our Fight Back Radio listeners a little bit about yourself. Who is Xavi Velasquez? What's your background, and how'd you come into be a part of this kind of activism?
So I did a lot of organizing work with the National Alliance Against Racial Oppression here in Dallas. And yeah, we just kind of saw a need for more robust immigrant rights activism. A lot of the orgs that we had here locally kind of just stopped operation after Biden got elected, and so we saw a need and thought to fill it. So a few of us kind of broke away and founded La Frontera Nos Cruzó.
So it's a relatively new organization then.
About what, 3 years old now? Yeah, I guess new-ish. Yeah, we started up in early 2021, I believe.
Okay, and so you're focused on immigrant rights, and so this means for those of us who are linguistically challenged, the name means the border crossed us.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so why that name? Where the border crossed us? For those that aren't familiar with Mexican and USA history and etc. Why do you use that name?
Well, yeah, a lot of Mexican Americans, or as we like to call ourselves, Chicanos. For a lot of us, our families were living here, way before this was ever Texas or the United States, and so yeah, we just kind of believe that this land is our home, and it's ours. So yeah, we believe the border crossed us.
So, and in fact, all of Texas was part of Mexico at one time, correct? And so before this, the Mexican-American War in the early 19th century, it was all part of Mexico, and this was just a land grab to expand slavery, amongst other things. So maybe we can get into that in a little bit, but tell us also a little bit about La Frontera Nos Cruzo, and what kind of activism have you done in the 3 years of your existence? What kinds of things have you been involved with?
Yeah, so here recently we've been doing a lot of stuff over State Bill 4, but before that we would do a lot of we'd have a lot of what are they called, like a know your rights kind of thing for immigrants. We'd have a immigration attorney come and give a Q&A and a presentation over how to react whenever the police stop you and stuff like that, and they're questioning your legal status. So that was one of the first things we started doing.
So let me stop you there. So what's the answer? What do you do if the police pull you over and they start messing with your legal status?
So basically, yeah, he says in them to I think one of the things he says, silence is golden. The less you say, the better. So yeah, I basically ask them, hey, I'm not being detained, and if they say no, then you don't really have to bother with them anymore. You can go, or if they do say you are detained, then you ask for a lawyer.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, anything with any law enforcement, if the best thing to do is to say as little as possible and ask for a lawyer and tell them to talk to your attorney. So that is good advice. But you were going on, so that you mentioned State Bill 4. What is that?
State Bill 4 basically gives local law enforcement the ability to do what traditionally has been immigration, customs enforcement um, stuff, where they have the ability to stop you and ask about your status, your immigration status, and detain you. Traditionally, it was ICE who did this, but with State Bill 4, it gives local law enforcement that ability. And yeah, it's honestly it's a big. It really pushes discrimination. We believe.
So basically, what this says is any police officer can check. It's not just immigration; it's any police officer can pull you over and say, "Where are your papers?" And then, okay, we're going to deport you because you don't have the correct identification or whatever. Is that right? Or
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
so what's the governor of Texas right now is a guy named Greg Abbott, and what's the deal with this guy? I mean, I'm here in Chicago. I can tell you, there's a lot of people here that are not happy with him because he keeps filling buses of people and just dropping off immigrants on the corner with no preparation or whatever. And but what's the deal with Greg Abbott? Who is he? And how did he become the governor of Texas? Or and what's his view? What's behind this? Who's is he just a nut job, or is he being paid off by some interest, or what's the deal with him?
Well, he's been governor for as long as I can remember. I don't remember a time when he wasn't governor. I born and raised here. But yeah, he's a right-wing GOP governor. I think he falls more on the kind of almost libertarian side of things, but yeah, he still kind of sticks to like the Republican line of anti-immigration and that jazz. And yeah, I think there is a bigger mechanism there. I think people like that, they use racism as a tool for their capital sponsors, I guess you could say. But yeah, they use racist policies like that to keep people divided and also keep people underpaid and overworked.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's true. I mean, if they, if you have different levels of rights for different types of workers and people, you instill in people that the problem isn't rich people running to the bank with all the wealth from our labor. Instead, the problem is some guy who's black or brown or whatever. That it divides us and takes away our power. So it's a problem for sure. So what I really want to talk to you about here, though, is you were just part of a delegation with people from the Twin Cities, Minnesota, and people from California who went to Eagle Pass, Texas, and Piedras Negras. I'm going to say the name of the state wrong here. Coahuila, Mexico, and so tell me a little bit about this delegation, how it came to be. Eagle Pass has been in the news a little bit here, but tell me a little bit about why you guys decided to, from all the three different very far away parts of the country, to go to Eagle Pass and then across the border to Mexico.
Yeah, so we had the great opportunity, I believe, the middle of last year to be introduced to a couple of the organizers down there with the Eagle Pass Border Coalition. And so, yeah, hearing about Eagle Pass in the news last year and all the razor wire and the buoys and all that bad stuff, and seeing all the news coverage about it. Yeah, we had the opportunity to meet some of them, and we've kind of been getting a good relationship with them down there, and yeah, like after all the stuff with SB4 going through our state senate and kind of the heightening of tensions down there and the propaganda of all these invaders coming here, yeah, we decided to go out there for like in solidarity and to kind of see with our own eyes, what's going on. Because you kind of hear, different things, from the news or, different, political pundits. But yeah.
Well, let's dig into it then. So I want to find out what you did see. So why don't you just I don't know. Have you ever been to Eagle Pass before? And when you got there, what did you see? What were your first impressions of? I believe this is a relatively small town. I think I read 28,000 people or something like that. So you're from the Dallas Fort Worth area, which is a big city. So what did you see when you got to Eagle Pass?
Yeah, so initially, like driving in to Eagle Pass, it was really reminded me a lot of like the small towns we have out here, just kind of in between the big cities, just like yeah, just the middle America kind of vibe. But also, yeah, immediately driving in, we saw at least 4 or 5 police cars just like immediately driving into Eagle Pass. So yeah, for a small town, we thought that's kind of weird. There's yeah, it's a bit of over policing, I would say. Like, coming in, we saw, a person pulled over, and then our tour guide had just been pulled over. She before we met up, right when we got to Eagle Pass, she was showing us pictures. Hey, might be a little late. But yeah, it's definitely a big impression of just over policing. And that was throughout the time. Actually, it wasn't just the first night. Like every day it was just kind of like, why do they got 3 cop cars just like, I don't know, on every street corner,
So, and your tour guide was from the Eagle Pass Border Coalition,
Yes.
is what you're saying? Okay. And and the police you were seeing, were they what agency were they? State police or city police or county? What kind of policing were you seeing?
So it was a big mix, actually. So that first night, I think we only saw state police, Texas sheriffs, and Texas state troopers, and Eagle Pass police. But the next day, we saw a lot more of like the immigration trucks, and we can get a little bit into it later. But they were being driven by the U.S. Army personnel. We just thought that was pretty weird. And then also, I think we saw one state trooper from out of state, and they've been doing that a lot. Abbott's been inviting in people or state troopers from Florida, uh, Georgia, Alabama, I think. I forget which state we saw, but yeah, uh, a whole plethora of different, I guess, police agencies. Some not even from here.
Wow, that's something else. And Eagle Pass as a city, I mentioned it's a small 28,000 people, but also, am I right? It's overwhelmingly, I think I read 97% or something like that, Chicano and Mexicano. Is that right?
Yeah, 97%. Yeah, that's what our tour guide was telling us.
Okay. Okay. So then you got there. You saw lots of police. Then what after that? What happened? You what did what did your did you have some meetings with the Eagle Pass Border Coalition, or what kinds of things did you guys do while you were there?
Yeah, so the next day it was jam packed with. I think they were telling us that normally with like a non-emergency delegation, I guess you could say. Normally, what we did in, I guess, one day, they would put into a week. But no, that next day, I believe it was Saturday. Um, we we had a kind of like a teach-in kind of thing for some of the young organizers there, um, and yeah, they were kind of telling us a little bit about like yeah, what it's like there. Um, Trying to yeah fight for things you believe in, and I guess from that first thing, I guess the feeling I got from them was that yeah, it's kind of people are afraid to kind of stand up and speak out about things. Yeah, so I think I was talking to their local high school president of their National Honor Society, and he was telling me about how they I guess high schoolers there have to have a certain amount of volunteer hours or community service hours, and he was trying to work with the border coalition on doing some organizing with them or volunteer work with them, and his principal is basically telling him like, yeah, don't do that. If you keep doing that, we might have to remove you from being the president of the National Honor Society. And it's just like, geez, that's very I don't know. It didn't give me a good feeling for like, yeah, like um the people there trying to speak out.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about then the Eagle Pass Border Coalition? I mean, why are they a threat to the National Honor Society or to the status quo at within the with Governor Abbott's people and whatever? What kinds of things do they do? Who are they? And if you could tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, well, it's I think they pose a threat to kind of the policies that the state and the local government is taking there. Very anti-immigrant. So one of the things that we learned there was that like yeah, a huge budget of the state and the tax dollars there go toward the police and oh god, the immigration police there, and they get subsidized to go have their nice fancy housing there, but the schools they don't they uh, they're not very funded, and one of the things that they were talking about, like with the National Honor Society there in high school, they're trying to get better lunch. They said that their lunches are some of the worst, that they've had, and so yeah, it's like um, kind of speaking up for like immigrants and the people there. Yeah, it's a threat to like how businesses run.
Okay. So then, I mean, you mentioned something there I want to ask about. You mentioned the immigration police. Are you talking about ICE there, or is this somebody else that you're talking about?
Um, yeah, ICE, and I think they're local law enforcement, but the they were showing us kind of when we took a further along in the day, they were giving us a tour of the town, and we're driving through like really really nice neighborhood, and yeah, she kind of turned to us and said, "Yeah, this is where all the immigration police live. They get a like a I guess a term of you know working there in Eagle Pass for a certain amount of time. So they get all these big bucks, and they just buy these huge houses. And so yeah, it's I don't know. You can see the disparity because most of the rest of the town is very uh, just poor. Like you drive down one street and it's like very very like people don't have enough of what they need there.
Yeah, yeah. And so, well, let me ask you about some of the stuff that's been in the news. Is that the governor, Governor Abbott, has put whatever razor wire out there and stuff in the river. The Rio Grande is the border between the big river, or the Grand River, is the border between Mexico and Texas there, and he's allegedly put these razor wires or whatever in the water that could potentially harm or kill people. What was did you investigate that, and what did you find out?
Yeah, so I guess continuing on with what I was saying about that tour of the town, we went on both sides of Shelby Park and up to Shelby Park itself. And yeah, they have, I guess, for maybe not even a mile in each direction on either side of Shelby Park is just razor wire. There's only one section of it where there's buoys, and they've got razor wire around the park itself, which is very odd. It's like, are you keeping your own people out of the park too? It's very, but yeah, it's so weird though because it's like it doesn't extend the full length, of the river. It's just right there in not Shelby Park, but Eagle Pass and around Shelby Park, and it's like so people could still, I guess, technically get around it. So to us, it's just like this is for show. This This is to scare people.
But you tell me about, okay, so Shelby Park's been in the news a little bit because the governor, again, he sent the National Guard, I think, to occupy Shelby Park and to try to militarize the border and to prevent immigrants allegedly from, coming across the border into that park. And then President Biden pushed back and said, "Well, if the border is going to be militarized, I'm going to militarize it, not you." And so he wanted ICE and federal troops to be in there. So you said you went to Shelby Park. What does it look like? Is this a huge park or a little park, or are people able to use it now? And what's the deal? You just said some of the razor wire might have been show, but what's the deal with all this?
It's a pretty big park. It's got quite a few like soccer fields in it. I think there's even like a golf course like immediately adjacent to it that you can go on. But the Texas National Guard, before Biden had sent extra personnel down there, they had kind of were, I guess, policing the town. Because one of the things that our tour guide noted, she was trying to show us all the different places where the Texas National Guard was set up. But when we would get to those places, we were finding the immigration trucks there, the ICE trucks, and they're being driven a lot. Well, I don't think I saw any without the U.S. Army personnel in them, but they had taken up all the positions that she was trying to show us that were occupied by the Texas National Guard. We only saw Texas National Guard once we went up to the gates of Shelby Park, and you can see all the trucks kind of parked up in there. But yeah, I think once Biden sent the Army personnel down there to help ICE, yeah, they kind of the Texas National Guard kind of just I don't know put themselves under siege, I guess, in the park, and yeah, they're not letting anybody go in or come out. It's all just National Guard, Texas National Guard on the public lands there. Nobody can use it.
So, and both the Texas National Guard, the U.S. Army, and Immigration ICE, if they're there, are all there to try to capture potential people crossing the Rio Grande. Is that correct?
Yes. So one of the things that we learned there was that when people cross, they want to be they want to declare asylum. They're not trying to like get out and kind of sneak in. They're a lot of people that are coming here like they want to declare asylum, and so yeah, they're there to pick them up. And kind of one of the things, since I'm thinking about it, that I'd like to note, when we would go to these positions that she was trying to show us, there was just clothes, backpacks, shoes, just everywhere. And what she was telling us is that whenever they do get stopped, and they're wanting to declare asylum, they make them trash all their belongings, so they have to dump out everything that they're carrying on them. And so yeah, one of the things that the right-wing pundits like to say is like, oh, they bring all their trash here, and it's like, no, well, you're making them trash their belongings. No one, they don't have anybody come pick any of that up. That's all on the ICE and the Texas National Guard.
No, that's common sense, I think. I mean, it's like, oh, well, I got a bunch of trash in South America. I'm going to take it all the way up to Texas just to dump it. That doesn't make any sense. But I want to get back to the Eagle Pass Border Coalition. So what kinds of things are they trying to do? What kinds of policies are they trying to change, or what's their role? What do they see as their mission?
So the they'd like them to remove all the razor wire and all the buoys, because people use the river. There's some businesses and some people go and they kayak up and down the river, and with the Shelby Park, they want their park back, because some of the people who are in the Eagle Pass Border Coalition also run like this vigil every month, and they use Shelby Park to hold a vigil for all the people that have been killed trying to cross the border. But yeah, since all this militarization and then the occupying of the park, they can't do any of that stuff.
So the governor and the ICE that have occupied Shelby Park, they've taken it away from the people so that they don't have a park now. And also this, talk a little bit about this razor wire in the river, and what's that all about? What are they trying to do there? And you said it not only prevents people from crossing the river, prevents people that are residents of Eagle Pass from using the river. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So like I'm saying, it's kind of for show. I mean, there's parts of the river that are just made completely dangerous. And yeah, it's preventing people to use the land, as they see fit, And one of the things we saw there actually, when we visited the Mexico side, we went down to the river on both sides, during the day on the Texas side, and then at night on the Mexico side. Well, we did have the opportunity to see somebody trying to cross the river. So this person, they made it across, and they went up to the dry land where there was a lot of razor wire. And when she tried to go up and I guess declare her seeking asylum, they were like, "No, you need to get back in the river." And so they made her get back in the river and swim further down, which is very dangerous. The water that weekend on the river was very, very strong. So not only risking her life to get across, but then the Texas National Guard is putting her at risk of drowning to make her go back in, And it's literally so she could go further down, because they don't want to remove the razor wire. They're going to make her go across and then detain her there, or not across, but further down where there is no razor wire. So it's just like, it's mind-boggling, the rationale for this. It's militarization they have there going on.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy land. But I mean, let me ask you about. I want to get into Piedras Negras, which is the border town, in a second. But are there any other things you want to mention about Eagle Pass and what was striking to you there, and the time you spent, your delegation spent there with the Eagle Pass Border Coalition?
Yeah. So when you get into the town, you kind of, like I was noting before, like it's very, very small town vibes. But when you go down into downtown, it's kind of like a lot of the shops are boarded up. It's very, very, it really felt like a dying town, And so, yeah, going across and seeing the striking difference, because Piedras Negras is very bustling, very vibrant, bustling city. But yeah, seeing that disparity of like, the anti-immigration policies are not just hurting immigrants wanting to come here, but it's hurting the town itself. Like Piedras Negras gets a lot of money from the tourism that goes down there, and I think one of the things that we were talking about was how it used to be kind of the same for both. Like, Mexican tourists would come to Eagle Pass and spend money, and I guess have a good time in the town. But yeah, you just see that like very striking difference between the two towns.
So this hurts the economy of both. But yeah, I mean, why don't we dig into that then? So you after spending time in Eagle Pass, and this is common. I mean, there's these border towns, not just in Texas, but New Mexico, Arizona. I'm not sure about California. Right? Yeah, California people may know, like Tijuana, and it's right over the border from San Diego. But It's not unusual to have a border town like Piedras Negras across from Eagle Pass. So when you went over to Piedras Negras in Mexico, what did you started to talk about this? The city looked very different. Could you talk a little more about Piedras Negras and why you went there and what you did while you were there?
Earlier in the day, back in Eagle Pass, we had the opportunity to meet the Eagle Pass Frontera Ministries, and they operate a food bank, and so they collect the food from I guess they get a discount buying it wholesale from a lot of the grocery distributors there, and they'll take it across to different shelters in Piedras Negras. Um, and so, we went there and we met up with them and gave them a pretty good donation to help them with getting food and stuff for the asylum seekers in the shelters. But when we did that, they basically were like, "Well, hey, do you want to see where your money's going?" So yeah, took them up on the offer, and um, they loaded up the car with a lot of food, groceries and stuff. We went across and stopped at a couple shelters there. And yeah, getting into these shelters was very heartbreaking. Because you hear all this rhetoric about invaders and criminals and all this not so nice things about the asylum seekers, and you get in there and it's mainly like families and children. I think it was more children than there were like adults in there. Um, and yeah, they go there to these shelters, um, uh, and they go seeking asylum here. But when they I guess when they don't want to cross the river, they apply for asylum in Mexico, and they're made to wait there for I think months. I don't remember how many months, but it really seemed like a substantial amount of time for them to wait there. And so they go there in these shelters, and they're just packed with people. And yeah, it's just very heartbreaking. The first one, yeah, just a lot of children, a lot of young people. And then the second shelter we went to, like they didn't even have electricity. So it's just it was just very, very heartbreaking experience to see the conditions that people, coming to seek a better life are having to experience to even be here.
So the people that are trying to cross the river are they mostly people from Mexico or people from what countries were they from, and what stories did you hear from them as to why they wanted to come to the United States?
Overwhelmingly, it was people from South and Central America. Yeah, I don't think we heard from one person from Mexico in the shelters. But yeah, they come here fleeing from a plethora of things: political instability, political repression, gang violence, economic instability. So that yeah, they're fleeing a lot of the most horrible things that I feel like the U.S. and international corporate um, corporations subject people to down in South America.
So, I mean, a lot of it, we've had some guests here on Fight Back Radio talk about U.S. imperialism and their role in Venezuela and other countries. I mean, and what they told us was a lot of it was that the trade agreements or sanctions, things like this, that the U.S. government was putting on these other countries to try to, whatever, benefit the rich in this country, were affecting people in such a dramatic way that they had to, to make these moves, that they weren't folks that were, like Venezuela, I think is probably a good example. A lot of times they put they say the government there is bad, but the revolution, or Chavez was elected and president of Venezuela a long time ago. I think it's like more than 20 years ago now, and so it's been that government in that form for quite a while. So but there's been the sanctions have started to take effect. Is that consistent with what you saw in the stories that you heard?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, yeah. When we talk about U.S. imperialism, yeah, a lot of that's seeing that firsthand. I feel like, yeah, just people fleeing from just that absolute desperation there, where yeah, these corporations go in and they want to change the economy of the nations down there to better suit them, and those that resist, they get sanctions, and and yeah, you see a lot of that down there on the border, where just people have almost nothing, fleeing violence in their home country, because yeah, like in Venezuela, they don't. Um, yeah, they get these sanctions, and they don't. Some people are just like, yeah, screw this, I can't do this anymore.
So let me ask you about the families that you met in Piedras Negras. So I mean, if I'm at the border with a bunch of my children, it seems crossing the river with razor wire in there. That seems like a pretty harrowing thing to do. Could you talk a little bit about what the kinds of things they were talking about, and why they if that's what they were going to do, or what, how are they planning to cross, or if they told you.
In the shelters, were applying for asylum in Mexico, and so they're waiting there for an appointment with Immigration Customs Enforcement to seek asylum. Um, that actually, I guess, it kind of made me think of something we had been hearing about. Um, so there was this family that was crossing, and the mother and the father were both killed. They were holding the bodies because they had to figure out whether or not the mother drowned or she was hit by one of the Texas National Guard boats. But the children survived. And uh, so one of the things that we're talking about was that the morgue there in the county that Eagle Pass is in was full, almost full. And then we talked to a reporter later on in the trip, and he had told us that it's actually full as of that weekend. But um, that's all to say that this kid, um, they're not able to release her back to her family in Mexico because the mother died with all of their identification documents on her, and they can't release her body until they get through all of the backup in the morgue of bodies that they've just amassed from killing people on the border. So this kid is sitting in detainment here in Texas for, I think they said they're not going to get to the mom's body for at least like another 6 months.
Oh my
Yeah, it's
God.
very, very
Oh,
harrowing stuff.
Oh my lord, that's a sad story. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess. Well, let me move to. I see you're wearing the T-shirt of Legalization for All, and I know your organization, La Frontera No So Cruzo, I think is affiliated with the Legalization for All, and that's who sponsored your delegation down there. Could you tell us a little bit about what's how do we fix this stuff? I mean, it's like I was watching Fox News, maybe because I'm a masochist, but I was watching Fox News, and they're all like, they'll tell you that there's, our immigration is broken, there's a problem, blah blah blah, and we agree with them on that, but I suspect we disagree on the solutions. Um, what are you trying to accomplish through Legalization for All? Why is your organization affiliated with them? And what's the deal with? I mean, with that.
Yeah, so Legalization for All Network is a network of different immigration rights organizations from across the country, and yeah, we come together and we discuss, yeah, hey, this is what's going on in our part of the world, and how we can all support each other with that. And so yeah, through that, um, uh, they sponsored this delegation down to Eagle Pass to um, yeah, to strengthen our ties with the organizations down there, and yeah, to see with our own eyes what's going on. And yeah, the solution to me as not what Fox News likes to go on about, but yeah, standing in solidarity with our fellow our fellow man, our fellow immigrant, and speaking up for people when they can't. With SB4, one of the kind of scary things to it is that a lot of the families here that we were hearing from when we were having our Q&A presentations, one of the families had told us that they were even just afraid to go get groceries. So yeah, so part of the solution is sticking up for and helping people like that, through hard times like this where they just can't, they feel too afraid to get out to function normally.
Yeah, I mean, I think well, your name Legalization for All, tends to say, okay, let's just give everybody full equal rights, and it seems like a rather radical solution compared to certainly compared to Fox, maybe as a radical solution on the other side, but Trump is running for president. He's going to get the Republican nomination. He may be our president again before too long, and so that's quite different than what you're saying. And how does do we just open up the borders and say, okay, let anybody who wants to come in here? Or what's the solution to the problems that we're having that play out in the border like this?
So yeah, legalization for all, also demilitarizing the border, also because I mean, yeah, personally, yeah, we don't want people dying like they are coming across, um, but yeah, legalization for all is what we're aiming for.
Okay, and so I mean it's I mean the truth is I think the thing we were talking about a little bit earlier about trade agreements and sanctions play a big role in this too. It's not like people that have lived in Central America or Haiti for that matter too, where we got people coming from now, or for generations and generations, or South America. Say, oh well, I want to go to the United States now. I mean, it's they're being driven out by the same reasons immigrants always go to where they're going. I mean, it's the same was true of the Europeans. I come from a European background. Of my ancestors were being driven out by economic forces in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century. So it's the same thing, I think, of them doing those kind of things. And yeah, I mean, it's terrible. But let me also ask you a little bit about the situation with along the border and with Mexico and some of how I'm interested in how this plays out in Texas too, because there's a large number of people in Texas, Chicanos, who have been living there for centuries. And it seems that Governor Abbott and President Trump are trying to exacerbate racism between the white and brown people, and trying to to say that the problem is Mexican people or whatever. And how do you see this? I mean, you're of that you're of Mexican American background, or Chicano as you identify yourself. What does it mean to be a Chicano in Texas in 2024, and how do you view the upcoming presidential election and some of the stuff going on?
Yeah, no, yeah, with facing another 4 years of, I mean, either of them, I'm not too excited about, but yeah, no, I think it, there's we as Chicago people, we have a good culture here of just being in community with each other, and yeah, some of this stuff, it's just like threatening that. Um, as an organizer who's bases themselves out of the community, you see a lot of this fear and stuff going on, and I don't know what to think. It's we're facing I don't know. Like I thought when he got elected in 2016 it was bad, but yeah, just the way that they've turned on this anti-immigrant tap as a run up to the elections is just it's kind of harrowing. But yeah, one of the things that you were talking about kind of got a couple brain cells rubbing together in my head. But no, I think yeah, when they talk about solutions to this, one of the things that the right talks about is like, oh, they come here stealing jobs and along with calling us criminals and whatnot. But like when we talk about imperialism, one of the big things that it doesn't just hurt the people in those countries that they go to seek all their resources. It hurts the people here. A lot of the factories that shut down and move to South and Central America are from the U.S. So it's not only hurting the people in South and Central America with these with the jobs that those corporations have for them, paying them 20 cents an hour. They used to be paying people up here much more than that, and so taking all those jobs away and taking them to South and Central America. When we talk about stealing jobs, it's like, well, what do you mean? A lot of this really, it's not about the immigrant. It's really a lot of it's about these awful corporations seeking resources and seeking the big resource of cheap labor, cheap or free labor.
Yeah, no, I think there's no question about that. And even some of the history of Texas is striking to me. The original people that came from the United States that went to Texas when it was part of Mexico were going because in Mexico slavery was outlawed by that time, and they were trying to and they wanted to expand slavery into Texas. And so the whole issue of Texas and the other parts of New Mexico, California, Arizona, Colorado becoming part of the United States after the Mexican-American War the idea was to expand slavery. And of course, we had a civil war about that afterwards. But this, making glorizing or making, great people, like Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie and these guys were actually fighting to expand slavery. And so we should just tell the truth in our history, I think, which might be something new. Anyways, that was my little monologue. But, I appreciate, Javi, you taking the time to spend with us here. We're starting to run out of time now. I want to give you a chance if there's anything we didn't say in this interview that you would like to add or to say, now would be a good time.
So there's an effort that Legalization for All kind of signed on to be a part of, and that is the March Against the RNC and DNC RNC happening in Milwaukee, July 15th, and
this is the Republican National Convention where Donald Trump will likely get nominated to run for president of the United States.
Yeah.
So that's in Milwaukee. What's the date again? I'm sorry.
July 15th is happening. And we're also going to be marching against the DNC as well, and that's going to be in Chicago on August 19th. And so, yeah, hoping to get some of your listeners out there to support the march and be there.
So I will be there, and I hope our listeners are there. So we appreciate that. Also, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to we're coming up on in a couple of weeks International Workers' Day, which is May 1st, and the May 1st is a holiday that goes back to, it started 1889, but it was to commemorate the killing of immigrants who are fighting for the 8-hour day here in Chicago for Haymarket. And it became International Workers' Day, and it's now celebrated all over the world, where workers often get the day off of work, and they have their marches and parades. And in the United States, they did not give us May Day as a day off of work. In fact, gave us Labor Day in part to maybe get us to forget that. But and in fact, President Nixon in the 60s declared May 1st Law and Order Day to counterpose it to a Day of the Police. But I want to give a shout out to our immigrant sisters and brothers in the United States who brought May, especially from Mexico, who brought May Day back to us in 2006 through what they called the mega marches, because they were fighting the attacks at that time. The Sensenbrenner bill, congressman from Wisconsin, was trying to outlaw not just immigrants, but also people who helped them and criminalize them. And so there was these huge marches of hundreds of thousands. I think we had 1 million people in Chicago, and to march for immigrant rights and workers' rights. And so since then, we've continued here in Chicago and other cities across the country too to march on May 1st. So it's a day of immigrant rights. It's a day of workers' rights. It's a day where we stand together and try to get more power to the people and immigrant rights. So I want to encourage our Fight Back Radio listeners, whatever city you're in, look for a May Day program or march and go out there and march in it. If there's not one going on, you can contact Fight Back News or Fight Back Radio or Freedom Road Socialist Organization or somebody else, and do a program, do something, because this is our day, and we should feel proud about it. So as I said, we're running out of time here. We can put in the show notes the march on the DNC and the march on the RNC. Also, do you want to give your contact information, Javi, for Legalization for All?
Yeah, you can find Legalization for All on most major social media under Legalization for All. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes as well. So anything else before we sign off, Javi?
No, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed being able to share my experience.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Javi. You've been a fabulous guest. Thank you. Okay, so that was Xavi Velasquez, and I think you see what's going on with immigration down in Texas, and just, Trump is going to just keep ratcheting up the rhetoric, and this is going to get worse as we head towards the presidential elections, and so it's important for us to have some understanding and be able to we need to unite working people. And I mentioned May Day is coming up. I want to again tell people go to a May Day program, go to a march. If there's none going on in your city, contact Freedom Road Socialist Organization and tell them to put one together, and they can help you do that if you want to do it yourself, or whatever it is. If it's just if it's a big event or a few people on the corner, it's important that we do it. And especially I think it's important that working class people and immigrant rights people on this day stand together. And it's also important, let me say this too, I should have mentioned this in the intro, but the Palestinian struggle continues. What's going on there's a revolution going on in Palestine, and there's a genocide going on in Palestine. And which side you're on is important, and it's important that we stand with the Palestinian people as they fight for their freedom. So I want to encourage people to also take up that on May Day, and be a part of whatever marches and programs are going on around Palestine and for the Palestinian people in your area. I mentioned Larry Spivak, which was one of our early episodes that tells the history of May Day. We'll put that in the show notes so people can find that too. And so hopefully you'll be able to learn a little bit about May Day if you didn't know already. But I strongly encourage people. This is our history. Don't let them take it away from you. So finally, I want to thank, as we approach almost 2 years of Fight Back Radio, I want to thank our production team, which does such a fabulous job. Dodd McColgan, Vince Olson, Shane Tremley, and Natalie Pranis. And I'm Richard Berg for the entire Fight Back Radio team, saying until next time, all power to the people.